And guys, in this next news story, and a man who brutally stabbed a mother to death in front of a young daughter at a Notting Hill Carnival has been found guilty of murder. Innocent bystander Cher Maximen was stabbed to death with a zombie knife when caught up in gang violence during the world famous event which tracks around 1 million people across the August bank holiday. The killer, Shakeil Thibou, had been attempting to target a man called Adjay Ijak when the nightmare unfolded on August 25th last year. Mr. Ijak managed to dodge the enormous blade as Thibou repeatedly tried to knife him in the stomach. But during these chaotic scenes, Ms. Maximum was knocked to the floor, and as she struggled to her feet, Thibou raised his knife and deliberately stabbed her in the groin. Ms. Maximum, who worked as a clothing designer, died 6 days later from her injuries, having been attacked in front of her 3-year-old daughter. Thibou claimed he was trying to defend himself from Mr. Ijak and said he stabbed Ms. Maximin by mistake, but the jury convicted him of murder, attempting to cause GBH to Mr. Ijak and having an offensive weapon, which is namely a knife. The guilty verdict was announced, and members of Ms. Maximin's family broke down in court. One of the family representatives said, Ms. Maximin's daughter is aware that on that day something happened to her mother. She saw her mother drop to the floor and then she saw her mother bleed. That's the daughter's last living memory of her mother. And to live with that, knowing that that's happened, that somebody did that, that's why it's so hard, and that's where the rage comes from. Thibou's brother, Sheldon Thibou, was found guilty of violent disorder and assaulting a police officer who tried to intervene. And a third brother, 22-year-old Shakeil Thibou, was cleared of violent disorder but convicted of assaulting the same PC after a jury deliberated for around 50 hours. The Old Bailey heard that a disturbance broke out at around 5:48 p.m. between the defendants, and at least two of the males who were close to where Ms. Maximum was standing with her group. The crowd parted as Sheldon Thibou got into a physical confrontation with the males, prompting the police officer to step up to break it up. Sheldon Thibou was holding a stun gun as he and Shaim hit out at the officer, the court heard. Meanwhile, Shakeil Thibou thrust a huge knife repeatedly towards Mr. Ijak's stomach, only missing him because the intended victim drew back. Ms. Maximen was knocked to the ground after Mr. Ijak came into contact with her and then managed to partially get to her feet. She appeared to lift her right leg at Shakeil Thibou, who raised the knife directly towards her and deliberately stabbed her in the groin. Prosecutor said the injuries inflicted on Ms. Maximen were fatal. The defendant had killed her. It was truly shocking attack and regarded as such by those around it. Judge Philip Casey excused the jurors from any further jury service for the rest of their lives, saying they had been compelled to watch some very difficult footage. So the prosecutor told the court, Cher Maximen was killed and the knife, the weapon used to kill her, was wielded by the first defendant, Shakeil Thibou. Cher Maximen was visiting the Carnival too. She has a daughter aged 3 and her daughter was very close by when her mother was attacked and killed. She suffered terrible injury from which she died, and the knife wielded by the defendant said, you will see not physically in court as the defendant got rid of it soon after. You will see camera footage of the fatal attack itself. He said it's a shocking weapon to have, let alone to use, but use that the defendant did with devastating consequences. He killed an innocent woman with it. He said moments, and I mean moments before he stabbed Cher Maximen, the first defendant carried out an equally horrifying attack on a man who was already retreating from him from his knife. He was lucky. His name is Adjay Ijak. In fact, he in those moments may have not realized or does not now realize the real danger he's faced. He was able to retreat and just draw his body back away from the knife as the defendant, Shakeil Thibou, thrust it towards his stomach and abdomen more than just once. There were hundreds of people in the area. The carnival was in full swing and the location was just off the actual carnival route. Around 5:48, a disturbance broke out close to, but not initially directly involving Cher Maximen and their group, but it did involve each of the 3 defendants, and it would appear at least 2 of the males. The crowd around the defendants parted, evidently as a reaction to their violence, and Sheldon and Shaim Thibou engaged in a physical confrontation with 2 of the males. A police officer, PC Mort, intervened using his baton in an attempt to break it up. Sheldon and then Shaim hit out at the police officer. Sheldon Thibou was holding a stun gun in his right hand at the time, and he also another possibly sharp object in his left hand. He said, Shakeil, he had that huge knife with him, described one witness as a zombie knife. He then lunged with the knife directly at Adeji Ijak's torso, and repeatedly Ijak tried to grab hold of Shakeil's arms, and in those moments recoiled away from the knife, and the knife, with no thanks to the first defendant, just missed him, and by only very close margins. What would have happened had he not instinctively recoiled, pulling his stomach away from the knife, does not need any imagination. He said, you will see that Cher Maximen has been knocked to the ground in immediate events that Adeji Ijak recalled from Shakeil Thibou's knife in his efforts to save himself from the knife attack. He had come into contact with Cher, and it's clear that she had simply got caught up in the events. Shakeil stumbled over the ladies who were sitting down, including Cher, but steadied himself on the hoarding, and Cher Maximen in those moments grabbed hold of Shakeil Thibou's coat, pulled it, and managed to get partially to the feet. She appeared to attempt to strike out with a hand at Shakeil, who was of course still holding that knife in his hand. Cher took a step towards him and at the same time attempted to raise her right leg towards him. It was at this moment that Shakeil Thibou raised the knife directly towards Cher Maximen and deliberately thrust it towards her, stabbing her in the groin. The injuries inflicted on Miss Maximen were fatal. The defendant had killed her. It was a truly shocking attack and indeed regarded by those around it. When Sheldon was arrested on the 27th of August, a stun gun was found along with machete and knives. Shakeil was arrested at a hostel where large knives were found. He had no previous convictions, but one caution of drug offence, and Sheldon had 2 convictions of possession of cannabis and dangerous driving. Shakeil denied but was convicted of murder of having an offensive weapon. He was cleared of attempted murder in relation to Mr. Ijak, but convicted of attempting to cause GBH with intent. So Sheldon, he was convicted of violent disorder and assault on an emergency worker. And Shaim, he was cleared of violent disorder but convicted of assault on an emergency worker. And Shakeil will be sentenced on May the 16th, while his brothers will be dealt with on a date yet to be fixed. A relative of Cher stated, we would like to express our deepest gratitude to the jury for helping to ensure justice has been served for our beloved Cher Maximen. What's happened to us has completely turned our lives upside down. Losing Cher has filled our hearts with immeasurable sadness. Cher was pure magic, radiant, loving, passionate and kind. She brought creativity, style and flawless flair to everything she did. She was a dedicated mother, a devoted granddaughter, niece, sister and friend. The senseless act of violence has cut short a life that had so much more to offer the world and was only just beginning to blossom. Like many young adults, life hadn't always been easy for Cher, but she was just discovering who she was and who she could be. Even when life felt unfair, Cher remained kind, caring, and a fierce protector of those she loved, qualities which were evident even in the final moments. Her smile lit up every corner of the room, her laugh echoed through hallways. Her journey was an example of resilience against the odds, showing that no matter the challenges, young people can emerge with strength, determination, and the will to strive for a better life. Real sad story there. Just want to say rest in peace. Share my condolences. Go out to your family. It's your boy GC. Keep it locked. Keep it real.